BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
The UK's chief vet is warning travellers not to run the risk of bringing foot and mouth disease home in their holiday luggage. Leave the meat and cheese behind is her message. And some very needy and wriggly livestock.
They're sensitive to atmospheric pressure, they're sensitive to light, they're sensitive to heat, they're sensitive to metal in the waters, they have moods, they can be very tricky.
The demands of farming leeches. Yes, leeches. More on that a little later. First, though, working in agriculture can be a full-on job, especially at busy times of the farming year. And sometimes that means that farmers don't find time to look after their own health. We're talking about well-being and health in farming communities all this week. Some livestock markets host NHS staff to make it easier for farmers to get access to health professionals. At Cirencester's livestock mark, they drive up in an NHS nurse on tour bus. So people buying or selling stock can also get themselves a quick medical checkup. BBC Radio Gloucestershire's reporter Mark Smith went along to see it in action.
Hi, my name's Caz Ramsey and I'm the Clinical Learning Development Lead for Primary Care in NHS Gloucestershire.
And we're here on your bus at Cirencester Livestock Market. So what's the point of coming here?
It's really to reduce the barriers to healthcare for farmers. They're often strapped for time, so it allows them to bring this facility here and they can be seen actually somewhere they're already at, rather than having to take time out of their day to visit kind of general practice services, and we can be the bit of the middleman as well if they do need referred on.
And what can you do here?
We do full health checks, so including blood pressures, heights, weights, BMIs. We check their pulses manually to check that they've got a regular heartbeat, and we can check them for diabetes as well if that's clinically indicated.
So one of the people who's come on board, introduce yourself, sir.
My name's Jim. I'm a part-time farmer, work in the livestock market 2 days a week.
How convenient to bring a facility here?
It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It saves me having to make an appointment, and if you can get one, to go and see the GP. So it's here on hand, and yeah, this is the second time this year I've been in just to have my checkups done, and it's very, very helpful, very useful.
How busy are you on your farm or getting to livestock markets, and therefore how difficult is it to make the time to actually get off to a GP appointment if you could do it?
Very, very difficult, yeah. You know, I leave home 6:30 in the morning, don't get home until early evening. So yeah, it is very convenient.
Farming's quite stressful, isn't it?
It is. My farm's losing money. I don't mind admitting that to anybody. Times are hard, so the pressures are on. And then, like I said, it's just handy to come in here and just be told that I'm fit and healthy. We all assume that we're fit and healthy because we live an outdoor life.
Richard Barrow, I farm cattle and sheep, 212 acres.
We've got this health bus here, literally on site. How convenient is it?
Well, I think it's very good because you know what it's like these days. You go to try and get a doctor's appointment for something hopefully quite trivial and you have to wait weeks on end. So actually with it being here, and they can do quite sophisticated things, yeah, it's very handy. You don't probably put your health first. You're just in tractor, meals, bed, that's it really, and you don't have time to do all these things, and farmers probably don't look after themselves as well as what they could and probably should do.
And every time this bus comes along, I know you don't need to jump on every time, but would you encourage others to do it?
Yeah, definitely, 100%, make use of it. It's here, don't need to book an appointment, get in there.
Richard Burrow ending that report from Mark Smith at Cirencester Livestock Mart. Now, it's blackcurrant season, 2 weeks earlier than usual, and if, like me, you've been hankering after a fine blackcurrant pie made with this year's fruit, you'll be pleased to hear that farmers who grow them say it's not only one of the earliest harvests in memory, this year's crop is an excellent one. Jo Hilditch is chair of the Blackcurrant Foundation, and they've been growing the fruit commercially on her family farm in Herefordshire for 70 years. I caught up with her as she was drawing breath after just finishing this year's harvest.
We're looking absolutely fantastic. They were burgeoning with fruit. A really good quality fruit, very even fruit. The bushes were looking really green hedges as such going through all the fields. So no, they've been looking fantastic this year.
And why has the crop been ready so much earlier?
You have your flower break in April, thereabouts, and usually it's exactly 90 days to the point at which you'll be harvesting that variety. This year, the warm weather really accelerated the bushes through the growth stages and just brought them on really steadily. There were no halting cold spells, which sometimes we've had in previous years. This year, we just all the way through the growing season when the fruit was ripening, we've had this kind of clear Sunny skies, clear weather, no rain, which obviously brings its own troubles. But, generally it's just been an ideal growing condition.
Wow, so blackcurrant farmers are happy farmers at the moment. What's the yield been like, and how has the quality been?
The quality's been really good because of the sunshine. The Brix levels have been very high. So obviously the Brix level is the sugar level. So that sunshine brings on the sugar in the plant. The yield has been reasonable, and we were all a bit worried about the yield because it's been so dry. But actually blackcurrant bushes have very good root systems which go down into the soil. So over the winter, we'd had really lots of rain. So in many ways, it's been the perfect season. The downside of the hot days is that in some cases, if your fruit is really ripe, then it can scorch the fruit, it can cause fruit drop, and it can almost cook the fruit inside its skin, which the processors clearly don't want because it can start fermenting. So it was really all about timeliness of getting the fruit as soon as it was ripe to the factory.
And when you say the factory, where do most of the growers sell to?
So in the UK, about 90% of our blackcurrants go into making Ribena, which is what we grow for. I mean, we also make a bit of British cassis, and there are IQF, individually quick frozen processors. There's a few other cordial makers, so that's the other 10%.
Jo Hilditch from the Blackcurrant Foundation. Now, brace yourself, because we're about to talk about leeches. Oh, just the very thought of them makes all the hair on the back of my neck stand up on end. But you may have a different reaction, as does Carl Peters Bond, who's part of the team at Biofarm Leeches, the UK's only leech farm. It's based in Swansea, and it produces leeches for both human and animal medicine. Marie-Claire Carey-Jones has been to visit to see how you farm leeches.
So we're just walking past a room where there are some Petri dishes and some bits of sort of scientific looking equipment. What's this room for?
So this room is my little office, so we're doing a little bit of microbiology now looking at the bacteria from the leech. My name is Carl Peters Bond, and we're at Biofarm.
So how many leeches are you breeding here, and what are they for?
We produce probably somewhere in the region of 50,000. Generally, they all go to hospitals. So it goes for plastic and microsurgery. So reattaching fingers, skin grafts, reattaching ears, scalps.
And they're still used quite prolifically in the NHS?
They're a last resort. So microsurgery is fantastic, and sort of 99% of cases you're not going to need leeches. So if you imagine you were in the garden cutting the hedge and you were to take your finger off with the hedge cutter, it would probably be quite a clean cut and all should be okay. Say you were to take your toe off in the lawnmower, then there might be a bit of more of a mess. So you may have lost a little section of toe. They'll try and find and stretch as many of these veins as they can, but they may only get half a dozen. So the blood will flow in but not flow out. To which case they put a leech on the end of the toe and it sort of saws its way in. It coats the outside of that hole with what they call a platelet adhesion inhibitor, which is a bit like Teflon for blood, stops it sticking on the way out. It has a vasodilator to open up the veins, hyaluronic acid, which it uses to spread its anticoagulant, and the process of this is the leech will fill up, and then when the leech comes off, you'll bleed, so the blood is flowing in and then out at the end.
And how easy is it to farm leeches?
Difficult. They're sensitive to atmospheric pressure, they're sensitive to light, they're sensitive to heat, they're sensitive to metal in the waters, they have moods. They can be very tricky.
Now, I go to all sorts of farms, and I think all farmers would say farming is a difficult job, so it sounds that leech farming is the same.
Yeah, no different to anything else, really. Yeah, they have moods, and you can't put them together. When they're in a bad mood, they cannibalise. So that's another issue that we have to keep continually grading between fat ones, thin ones, to make sure that they don't cannibalise.
Carl Peters Bond, and you can hear more about how to farm leeches without them eating each other, preferably, in On Your Farm on Sunday morning at 6:30 on BBC Radio 4 and on BBC Sounds. The UK's chief vet says bringing home meat products from overseas holidays presents a real risk of bringing foot and mouth disease into the country. Professor Christine Middlemas is reminding travellers that personal imports of meat and dairy products from Europe into Great Britain are currently banned, following outbreaks of foot and mouth in Hungary, Austria and Germany. The disease is highly contagious and comes at a huge financial cost, £8 billion for the 2001 outbreak in the UK, not to mention the emotional impact of culling whole flocks and herds to control the virus. I asked Professor Middlemas just how strong the risk of introducing foot and mouth from something like, say, cheese or salami really is.
Foot-and-mouth disease virus is really infectious, and it takes a very small amount of virus to infect one animal and create an outbreak. It is one of the most infectious viruses we know. And that's why a single salami, a single ham sandwich, something potentially can have millions of infective doses and create an outbreak. And it's so very important that everybody travelling back this summer remembers not to bring meat or dairy products with them.
If you're coming back and you've been into duty free and you've bought something that's fully packaged in plastic, vacuum packed.
If you're bringing it, that's a personal import. So anything, food items, meat, dairy, before you cross the border back in the UK, please don't bring them. If you have got something, tell the customs people at the airport or the port and they will get it disposed of safely.
Every time we cover this ban on personal meat and dairy imports on the programme, listeners contact us and they say that there's nothing displayed in the shops in airports or train terminals, and there's no sign of enforcement on the UK side when they get back. How are you working to improve that? Can you do anything to improve that?
We work closely with the owners of the airports and the ports. Of course, they're commercial entities and they have advertising and other things that they want to display. But more and more of them realising, since the foot and mouth outbreak in Europe, the significance of getting this message across. We've got lots of online messages, but it's something we're constantly working at.
I mean, you will get that information. However, you're still perfectly able to pick up a salami or some meat or dairy in one of the shops in the terminal, before you travel. So that seems just a bit daft, doesn't it?
Well, I was thinking about this myself in Italy last week, but of course, there are travellers there from France and Germany and lots of other countries where it is not illegal there. And that's why we're saying specifically, over UK media to UK travellers, please be aware this is a safeguard to protect UK animals. Don't bring it back.
The UK has just updated its foot and mouth control strategy for the first time in 10 years. What's changed in it? Has anything changed?
So you're right, it's been some time, it's actually been 14 years, I think, since we last updated it. Primarily what's changed is we've left the EU, so some of the legislative references and requirements and things have changed. Some of the technology, way we do testing and different things have changed. The key tenets of disease control, of course, remain the same. So we want to prevent disease happening in the first place. We want to spot it really early if it does happen, and then we want to stamp it out quickly.
Yeah, so how confident are you now that the UK is properly prepared to act quickly and efficiently in the event of another foot and mouth outbreak? Because I know that some people listening will be saying, God, I hope those lessons learned reports aren't all just, sitting gathering dust on the shelf.
Quickly, absolutely. We are working on things to make us more efficient. Primarily, that's around digital things, updating the ID and traceability databases we have for livestock. We have had a separate cattle one, a separate sheep one, a separate pig one, which made sense at the time. Having all movements of susceptible animals on one system that we can look at quickly is a much more effective way of doing things.
The UK's Chief Veterinary Officer, Professor Christine Middlemas. And that's it from us for today. I'm Caz Graham. The producer is Sarah Swadling, and Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.